Back on Up and Adams, my next guest spent parts of 5 seasons with the Falcons, the Packers, the Niners, and he hosts Pocket Presence on Sleeper, quickly becoming a live stream Madden legend on YouTube and TikTok. I'm not going to say I called that it would happen because it was already happening. But I mean, like a year ago, I was like, Kurt Benkert's about to take over, people. Pay attention.
Yeah.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I mean, this is like a weird part. Oh, there goes the camera.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. That's okay. We just like to, it's April Fool's. It's fine. Okay, we are counting down to the draft. It's like 22 days away or something. We were both in Vegas at the Super Bowl. NFL fan experience, always incredible. But then I see this video of you doing their quarterback accuracy challenge. Talk to me about this. Did you get I feel like you got the itch in this moment to go back.
Oh, totally. I mean, I 100% was like, guys, like, I mean, I hadn't really touched a football in a while. And I was like, man, if I just, started training a little bit, could see a comeback tour. But I don't know. I'd have to slow down on the media stuff. And it's obviously going well. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if there's any calls. I definitely made some texts. I will say that. I made some texts.
What do you mean?
Received some texts. I mean, I just, sometimes you got to shoot your shot with old coaches, old friends. And we'll see what happens as training camp rolls through and OTAs pass up and all that good stuff.
Do you have a list of like, could any of the 32 call you and you're like, okay, I'll go try. Maybe that's fate. That's what needs to happen. You miss it that much? Or do you have like a...
I got a list.
You have a list?
Yeah,
okay.
I got a list.
Are there teams that I like on that list?
What teams do you like?
I like the Niners. I like the Packers, which you've already spent time with. I don't know, can you give me like a hint on one of the teams on your list?
I mean... Obviously, love Aaron, love the Jets, love what the Falcons are doing down there in Atlanta. That's where I spent most of my career. And they got the gang back together a little bit over there, which has been cool to see. Started covering them a little bit more. But I think for me right now, like I did the practice squad thing for so long, it would have to be the right situation for practice squad. And there's a few that I really like.
I'd say if I were you, Atlanta would be way on my list. Like that sounds like there's a lot of fun toys down there to play, not just in Madden, but in real life.
Yeah, they are loaded. And obviously Kirk Cousins I think he's gonna have a huge year, especially fantasy wise. I think this is like, regardless of how it goes with their wins, losses, playoff run, I think their offense is gonna be really exciting compared to what we've had to watch in the last few years.
You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Have you talked to him? Were you invited to ayahuasca?
I was invited to ayahuasca 2 years ago, and I actually had to call him to turn down the trip because I said yes to the XFL, and then I broke my ribs 10 days later. So I missed the trip, ended up having like an 8-week recovery, and that's, So I missed that one, but not this time around.
And then he didn't invite you. Yeah. He didn't invite you to this one. I wonder what goes through his head when he's making these plans and invitations.
Well, I mean, he has so many guys. I feel like that. Like he becomes friends with and sees life in a similar fashion too, and like gets to enjoy company with. So I've had a lot of time that I've been able to spend with him, and I do not feel any sort of way.
Do you feel like,
I'm sure there'll be another one.
Does this get talked about? Like once the ayahuasca happens and the journey happens, like is it something that he's open in the locker room or on text or whatever in detail and going into?
I mean, he's definitely talked about what it's like, but I think outside of just that experience, whatever it looks like, again, I've never done it. I just think he's very open to like talking and hearing about experiences in general that people have had. And that's kind of the cool part about being friends with him. Like you never know what's going to be talked about or come up in that day at any given time. And he's willing to talk about football experience, life experience, and he likes good conversation. So that's just kind of how he is.
When is he going to re-enter the news cycle is the thing we're talking about every day till training camp starts?
I mean, it's probably soon. Draft season's kind of his thing, isn't it?
Is it?
Every year, is there a receiver taken in the first round? You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like there's less. That's true. There's less time. There's less time where he's not being talked about every day. The ayahuasca thing sort of like came and went. I'm curious to see if he'll rig in headlines. It might just be when that Bakhtiari signing happens. Kurt.
We called it a year ago?
Oh,
we said
shit.
Whether it was last year. We'll have to find the clip. It was either. We said if it's not last year, it's going to be this year. And I will say,
go ahead.
I was able to talk to David, and he's feeling really good about where he is in his recovery. He obviously had a bunch of different surgeries throughout the time when he initially got injured, and he is most optimistic about this round of what he's been through.
So I'll leave it at that. You and him back on the Jets. I just Googled his name. 5 potential landing spots for him. Chiefs, Ravens, Cowboys, Jets. Interesting. When that happens, I'm going to lose my mind because that'll be amazing. And you absolutely called it. Now, speaking of the Jets and Aaron and potentially you going there, though I don't consider you like a New Jersey, New York guy. I don't know if that's like your vibe.
It's definitely not my vibe at all. I enjoy the beach. I enjoy the sun. My family really enjoys the South. So
Atlanta, it is. Okay. I'm just like trying to find things to manifest with you. Okay, so the Jets signed Tyron Smith. They also trade for Eagles defensive end Hassan Reddick, which is nice. So, you know, the Jets fans, they've been hammering Joe Douglas for not doing enough this offseason. They added talent a lot. If you are in that quarterback room or you're Aaron, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else that you want on this roster? Like, what are you waiting on?
I don't know. I mean,
just
you
Bakhtiari.
Obviously, right? Just some friends to join the party. I mean, I could see them. I mean, I know they have pick 10 right now in the draft. Whether they trade up or trade back, who knows? But like, if a guy like Brock Bowers falls to 10, he's such a stud at tight end. I know, like, I'm not a big proponent of taking tight ends in the top 15 or 20, but he seems like a guy that warrants that. And I'm like, man, if you could give him a crazy target at tight end, that changes the dynamic of the offense. I know Nathaniel Hackett loves his tight ends. So I look at a guy like that. I look at, like, does a receiver, one of those top 3 receivers, fall to 10? I don't think you can go wrong stacking a receiver room. If you look at the Bengals, which I know you're a fan of, they're loaded at receiver, and it's benefited Joe Burrow heavily. So could Aaron get his first round drafted receiver, I think, in his career? Maybe. I don't know, but I think their defense was so good last year. They added a few pieces this year. Like, just keep adding to the offense, because the more juice that you give Aaron, the only better the outcome's going to be. So that's how I look at it.
You like this Rome kid out of Washington, huh?
Oh, I love him. Yeah, he's my favorite receiver in this draft.
Do you think he'd be is that somebody Aaron would like?
Yeah, if Rome falls to them, they need to take him. Just watching his film, like, the way that he creates separation at the right time and uses his body and can contort and make back shoulders and everything, it's like, I feel like I'm watching, like, aspects of Devontae Adams' game, which, again, every receiver in the NFL is different.
Wow.
And there's certain styles of receivers that different quarterbacks prefer. And I think Aaron prefers this style of receiver over a guy that's, like, just speedy. Like Tyreek Hill is, I would say, yeah, he can make any quarterback look good. But Aaron is more of a precision type of passer than, like, a go deep and bomb it. And I think this style of receiver fits really well, and Aaron would be able to catch him up to speed. So I don't even think he's going to drop that fall.
Okay, so if we're talking Joe Douglas going all in, and you're telling me we can get a Devontae Adams on a rookie deal for Aaron Rodgers, should they trade up?
I mean, look, if they're going to trade up, I know they'll make somebody happy. And if you can match Garrett Wilson with another receiver that's that dynamic, that takes coverage away from him. They can't just double Garrett Wilson all game long, and then you let him be the best version of himself. Like, last year, he was able to eat with people knowing that was who was going to get fed in the passing game. So if you can bring one more dynamic playmaker, and then you have Mike Williams, who I'm assuming he's going to be healthy this year, like, taking off the top on the other side, I just think that offense looks entirely different than it did last year. I don't know. I think it's worth swinging. Like, you swung for the fences with Aaron's contract. You swung for the fences with the trade. Like, take one more stab at it and go get a stud receiver to add to that offense. And again, like, it's a good thing to have for whenever Aaron is done. You'll have another guy in the system.
And Rome is that guy to you, which now I'm going to be I have to go do a deep dive into him, because I think if what you're saying is true and he's Devontae-ish, then you do make that trade and you get your quarterback, that guy, especially if you're going all in. Okay, so Friday, you've been working so hard. You're insane. You put out ranks for this crop of quarterbacks in the draft. So if I'm looking at this list correctly, you have Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams.
I do.
What makes him the biggest organization changer for you?
Yeah, I think it's how he plays the game, and it's not to say that, like, Caleb Williams is not going to have success if he goes to Chicago. I think he's going to do well there. Year one might be a little tough to transition with what he played in college scheme-wise to this, what the NFL will be, but for me, Jayden, what he can do with his feet and how he can change the game like that, you don't really see guys like that come around so often, and be able to also do it with his arm. So if you took his legs out of the game, he's a really accurate passer. He can, like, he's in time, in rhythm, he's accurate. He does all the right things, and he's only going to get better in that aspect. Like, he's way better of a passer coming out of college than Lamar Jackson was. And you've seen the growth that Lamar Jackson had from rookie year in the NFL passing to where he is now. And I think Jayden Daniels is already ahead of that in the passing game. So if you give him a situation that's not absolutely miserable and he can go change the game with his feet a little bit, I think he can have a lot of success. I do think Caleb Williams, though, is going to be fine in Chicago. I'm more concerned about year one. Does the transition happen quick? Is he able to get them over that hump of like 10 wins? And are they able to keep the coaching staff with him? Because if they change coaching staffs after his first year, like that's going to also create just some problems, I think, going forward. So
it'll just be the same. Can he overcome?
Yeah.
You know, like what could you possibly expect him to do if that's the situation?
Exactly. So I think, again, with quarterbacks more than anything, it's so situational. And that's why like a guy like Drake Maye I have in the tier 3, because I think for him to have the most success, he can't go somewhere and have to be the savior year one. I don't think that sets him up for success at all. I think he has the tools. He just needs like a year or two of like sharpening and refining, and then he could be a guy. But yeah, that's how I look at it.
You've got, there's the engagement around Drake Maye with stuff you put out is interesting. So, well, what is your, so everyone knows that doesn't follow you on Twitter, see your stuff. What is your Drake Maye take?
My take is he has a high ceiling. He's got a big arm. He's kind of sloppy with his feet and really inconsistent as a passer. And he misses like just a lot of throws that I don't think a top 10 quarterback should miss. And that's the thing in the NFL. Like most people can make the crazy plays a time or two here and there. And he does that every single game in his college tape, but he just misses the easy plays that I know in the NFL get a little bit harder. And if you're not on schedule in the NFL, like no quarterback can live in that danger zone of needing 15-yard chunks every few plays because you missed a 5-yard out. And I mean, you look at even guys like Mahomes thrived at the end of the year because he started taking what the defense gave him the rest of the way, gave his receivers time to catch up. And then when he needed to make a play in like crunch time, he did that. And he's the best in like last few minutes of the game, situational football, but he didn't try to do too much. And in the middle of the year, he felt like he needed to compensate by watching his film. And that's when he started throwing interceptions. Like they lost to the Raiders. Like they had some like weird games in the middle. And then he got right back to doing what he does best. And I think a guy like Drake Maye could benefit from a Mahomes situation where you watch an Alex Smith for a year and you see how they do it. How do they operate? Like guys that don't have maybe the most talent in the world, but they're really good on first down, second down. They move the chains on third down and they're efficient. Like Drake Maye needs to add that into his game. And once he does, then sky's the limit. But it's really hard to add that to your game when you're asked to be the savior from day one. And so that's kind of where my whole analysis with him came from.
And then you had this blank stare emoji, I guess is how I can describe it, when the whole squad was obviously at the pro day. So him to the Giants, not fun for you?
Yeah, I feel like he's going to be stuck in a Daniel Jones situation. Like, you look at Daniel Jones, like, did he have the best year last year? No. Like, has he shown promise? Yes. He's made plays. But, like, who was he throwing to all year long? And the whole offense ran through Saquon Barkley, and, like, he's gone. And I'm like, if you're Drake Maye.
Can he sit a year, though, if they have Daniel Jones?
Can he sit a year?
Yeah.
He probably could. But I also think their roster, like, they need a lot of work. And so I'm like, if I'm him, if I'm Drake Maye, and I'm like, dude, could I go to the Vikings like a little later and sit a year behind Darnold? I'd rather do that than go to the Giants and sit a year with the way that their offense is, their situation. Like, is it kind of hot seat, kind of not? Like, I think Kevin O'Connell is probably a better match for getting a guy up to speed. That's why I actually loved Drake Maye to the Rams like way later, because I think being able to sit behind a guy like Stafford, be with a guy like McVay, get into a scheme that's a little catered to him. But I don't think he's going to drop that far because he does have so much upside. But I would hate to see his career like not take off because of a situation that he wasn't prepared for.
It's a good point. And if they take him, they can't take that wide receiver that they so desperately need, and they sort of punt on it. And I don't know if I have faith that the Giants can do what McVay just does perennially and find guys late to get it done. So it's not the best situation for anybody. Like if you're a quarterback in that room, you're like, God damn it, do not call my name, Giants.
You're also playing the Cowboys, the Eagles, and now the Commanders 6 times a year. Like it's
just, we're worried about the Commanders? Okay, Kurt.
I'm just saying, I'm sipping the Commanders juice a little bit.
Same.
I love Dan Quinn so much. And he's a guy who kept me around in Atlanta. Like he was so good to me in my early part of my career. Went and crushed it with Dallas. Like their defense is going to be better this year. They have playmakers on offense and they're only going to get better. And I don't know. I think that division is going to be interesting to watch, but it's definitely going to be a dogfight. It's going to feel like, in my opinion, the AFC North.
I got two more for you. I want to talk a little Packers here because an extension for Jordan Love, that's going to be the next thing on the list for our Packers here this offseason. The new CBA makes it kind of weird, a little interesting. Having a quarterback sit for 3 years and now having to pay him based off of one season. Are you seeing any risk for the Packers? Things that they should be hesitancy when it comes to Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, again, you have one seat. You really have like the last 8 to 10 games of sample size, because the beginning part of the year, can't really judge him based on that because the receivers were so young. They weren't running the right routes. Like the offense looked abysmal. And then this last playoff stretch, you also had a running back that ran for 100 yards a game every single game for the last 6 weeks. And it's like, he's way better than most of the league, but also stars kind of felt like they aligned a little bit this year. But he also should get paid. But you only have 1 year. I mean, it's like, it's so hard. So for him, I would be like, look, I just balled out and you need to pay me. And then for them, they're like, well, like, dang, we could get into a Daniel Jones situation, but I think Jordan's a better player. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of, and you know how the Packers do business. Obviously, you saw the quote with LaFleur not knowing that Aaron Jones was going to be gone.
Yes.
Whether it's true or not, like, that's just kind of how they go.
Do you think that's true?
I just don't see how. Like, I'm not going to say that Matt's lying at all. Like, I find that so hard to, like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
He lied to me. He lied to me once and told me he doesn't get his eyebrows done, and he does.
Oh,
so
okay,
it's
that's
like,
definitely a lie.
It's kind of a character flaw, right? Like if April
maybe
Fools,
he's just deferring
joke's on
to. You. Yeah. Okay. Well, then maybe that's the case.
Maybe he lied about it. It's hard to believe. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Aaron Jones was the lifeblood of that team, lifeline of that team, and in the locker room, like even if you just look at what he meant off the field, and they say how much he meant off the field publicly and how much they value that in the organization, I find it really hard to believe that head coach, play caller had no idea that it broke until the internet saw it. I don't know. That's out of my pay grade. I'm staying away from that stuff.
I get it. Okay, we're going to take a break on the TV side, but I want to ask you still something about Madden.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're going to love this. And in the break, we'll be right back. We will have Jaylen Wright on the show, but let's keep this going with Kirk. So lots more to get to. You love Spencer Rattler, which I love.
Yes.
He's going to be on my show. What should I ask Spencer Rattler?
Ooh, okay. Ask him about his college scheme and the 7-man pro and 3-man routes. Just ask him about that. That's the number one thing I saw watching film.
Tell me about your. I mean, okay, I will try. I'll try to. I'll put that in there for sure. Okay, I want to ask you the other thing about the XFL format for kickoff returns. Okay, next season.
Yes.
You played in the XFL, like you said, back in 2023. You didn't go on ayahuasca. You literally did. You missed the epic experience of ayahuasca to go to the XFL. But I really want to know, not about the new rule. I want to know how it affects Madden. And by me, I mean all of my producers, because is this a coder's worst nightmare right now?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had to touch that for the last 20-something years. So they're going to have to figure it out. It's going to create some more work for them for sure. And if they're just finding out about the rule, that's going to, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they had to push some things a little bit or expedite it or get some more engineers on the task. But hopefully they knew about it, because that's a lot of, I don't know how much work that is, but it seems like a lot. So, yeah, the play is going to be interesting.
Chances Bakhtiari ends up a Jet. Where are you at? Where's your temperature right now?
I'm going to say 69%.
Oh, 69%. Okay, Gronkowski sounds good. Kurt, you are the absolute best. By the way, I don't think I missed you saying Kirk Cousins is going to go off this year.
He is. I mean, if you look at just, again, guys are going to get like their Josh Allens and their guys like that in fantasy. Like, I'm going to just wait for Kirk Cousins to feel like I can snipe him in a middle round, because there's no way that he doesn't have at least a top 10 year statistically. And I don't know. I'm big about fantasy implications. I know everyone cares about fantasy. Yeah. And
how much
of that?
I'm about how much of that is because you love Raheem Morris, who you know well?
I would say I actually just like Raheem Morris for the rest of the guys. I think Kirk brings a different like driver to that team. I think Kirk's going to be able to take control of the offense. I just like what Raheem does for the cohesiveness of the team and the details and the energy. Like, people want to play hard for Raheem. And like, you look at guys like Grady Jarrett, who have just been like consistent their whole career.
Yeah.
Guys like him, play hard every single game, like he's going to be playing hard for Raheem Morris. Like guys were putting their bodies on the line for Raheem before he got let go by the Falcons.
Right.
I mean, he was up for renewal before they hired Arthur Smith, and they chose to go Arthur Smith instead of Raheem. Like he had interviews. Guys know what he meant to the locker room and what he's been able to do. So
you're the best. Good luck on those phone calls that you are dealing with. I'm wishing the best for you always. You know I'm your biggest fan.